Hey, good to see you. Good. I hadn't seen you since retirement. Okay, we ready? I didn't think we'd even have anybody today. I don't know with this crowd. I don't know what I can say with this bunch. All right, so obviously today we're going to be talking about Hellebores or Lenten roses. And these are perennials in the ranunculus family. So these are akin to what we call buttercups, not the daffodil types, but the other types. Almost all the Hellebores are winter bloomers. They all are winter bloomers, and they'll start anywhere from October, November up till springtime, depending on the types. The majority of them are evergreen, so they're really prized in the winter garden for things that come up and look good in the winter. So we're going to take a walk today, and we're going to look at some of the different kinds. So if you looked at Hellebores in the wild, you probably would wonder what all the excitement's about, because this is what a wild plant looks like. This is a particularly nice one, but if you look at the flowers, these are nice purple on the outside and green on the inside. And you say, well, that's not going to really get a lot of people really excited, and the flower's a little on the small side. This is Helleborus croaticus, so this is a native to Croatia, which is the Balkan regions where the majority of the Hellebores grow. One species grows on into England, and one species is way the heck lost over in China, but that one's almost impossible to grow here. The Hellebores always design themselves to hang down, which gardeners hate. The plants are like, if we went up like this, we'd probably have rain and snow on our pollen, and we wouldn't get to have sex and reproduce, and we'd die out. So that's why they hang down. What's happened since is breeders are like, we want them up. We want them sideways or at least up. So breeders have over the years been able to work slowly to get those flowers up. And now a lot of the strains that you get do have flowers that at least are out. This particular one's completely deciduous. If you'd been here 3 weeks ago, that was not above ground. So the main group that you will see are Helleborus hybridus. And what hybridus means, that's a group of about 6 or 7 species together. Helleborus viridis, nodorus, and orientalis, and purpurescens that all got lumped together, and they find that they just breed like rabbits. And so they just came up with a name for the whole group of hybridus. So depending on how much of each parent, if you've got a lot of viridis, the flowers will be yellow. If you got a lot of orientalis, the flowers will be white. If you got a lot of purple, you got a lot of Helleborus purpurescens. So they're mixed up completely. All the Helleborus hybridus are fertile, which means they're going to drop seed all over the place. Hellebores are pollinated by bees, and the bees are out now. So the bees are like, all right, there's one here, oh, there's another one over here. And so when you grow them from seed, you're most likely not going to get anything that looks like your parent, or you would get a very small percentage because they're crossing with everything else out there. There are now, as we will see next, a lot of new hybrid Hellebores, because there's one sort of outlying species called Helleborus niger, and it typically starts as early as October, for us generally December, but it always faces out, which is weird. It's like, why did it decide genetically to face out? And anything that crosses with it also faces out, and anything that crosses with it is also sterile. So that's been a real breakthrough in the breeders to be able to all of a sudden take this and go to this with no dropping of seed in the garden. So here is an example of the color forms that you see, and these are Helleborus hybridus. So when you buy them, you're typically purchasing something that is a seed strain. Many of those have names, which means they're going to come within a range. So if you got this, you would get some that were a little lighter, some that were darker, some that the flowers are smaller, but the range is going to be there that you're looking for. These are all hand pollinated. That means what the breeders have to do is go in every year and make the cross between the best parents. Because again, if you grow them from seed out of your garden that you didn't hand cross, you're going to have a wide range of mix. You might grow this, you might get some yellows, you might get you get a bunch of muddy mess, frankly. You're just not going to get the good quality you do when you grow them. So when we're looking at them, we're always selecting for larger flowers outfacing flowers, and we actually do a few from our own garden seed. Like we would collect seed off this, and because these two are together, we've got a higher chance that these are all going to be sort of in the violet to purple range, and make those selections. Okay, so let's go, let me come down here, let's go back this way. All right, so under here, this is a start. This is some of the early hybrids I was telling you about with Helleborus nigers, where all the flowers face out and they're completely sterile. These are seeding, these are not. You can see the colors range really dramatically. There's so many neat things that the breeders have been able to do over the last few years, putting these wonderful edges on them, getting the colors bigger, getting the flowers larger. There's just really, I tell people, if your Hellebores are more than 20 years old, you probably want to start again. Give them to your neighbors, give them to your church, and get new ones, because they are just so much better than they are prior to then. Now, you will see on a lot of, I've seen on several websites, Helleborus hybrids now, or Hellebores, are listed as invasive plants. Okay, this is because people don't understand the meaning of the word. Hellebores in no way, shape, form, or fashion are invasive. To be invasive, a plant has to seed, and a seed has to be able to be carried off by birds. Does not happen. That all came from a garden of the late Bill Hunt over in Chapel Hill. He planted Hellebores everywhere and let them seed all over his property, and then his property was taken over by the North Carolina Botanic Gardens. And so they're like, oh, Hellebores, they're invasive plants. They're not. They are garden thugs. If you let one seed for about 30 years, they will take over a big patch of your garden. Absolutely, they will do that. But they're not ever going to invade a functioning ecosystem. And that's, again, another reason we like the sterile ones, because you don't have to be worried about that. We will actually come into ours after they finish flowering, and we just snip all the seed off, because we've got enough seed. We don't need any more. All right, let's look at a few more sterile ones. So these are the sterile hybrids here. And there's several groups of the sterile hybrids. There's a group called the glandiferensis, there's a group called the abragensis. What all of this means is what the parents were for those. The glandiferensis types are crosses with hybridus and niger and another species. And what happens is the foliage on these is dark green. If you cross, the abragensis crosses have a plant called Helleborus lividus in them. And lividus is the southernmost species. It's only native to Majorca. Should not be hardy here, but it is, as long as we have summer heat. Lividus has these beautiful leaves, and the key to growing lividus, it must have full sun. You do not put lividus in shade, it will not be happy. It's going to die in the wintertime, but if you put it in bright sun, it gives, in all of its seedlings, this beautiful patterned leaves. And that's what you're seeing in all the abragensis hybrids, which is why we like this. This will be coming into bloom in another week or so. It really got hit by the storm. All right, let's walk over here and look at a few more. So I mentioned how much Hellebores have been bred through the years. Most of that breeding really started in Europe. You had the late Helen Ballard worked really a lot, then people like Elizabeth Stragman in England, and then now a guy named John Massey in England at Ashwood. Those are really the key breeders that gave what we needed in genetics, in terms of greatly improved genetics, into the U.S. And then in the U.S., we now have breeders that have started to work with those. A lot of these, this particular one is from the O'Byrnes. These are they're in Oregon. And this is where they've gone with them. I'll just take that off. You can see how amazing. This is their painted doubles. So they have really taken and sent Hellebores to a whole new area. A couple other breeders in the U.S. have done some things. Up in Pennsylvania, Dave Culp and our friends over here from Pine Knot Farms are here. Thank you very much for joining us today. They're also doing amazing work, and they're right over the border in Virginia. So let's walk a little more and look at a couple more. Show you a niger now. We've talked a lot about that.
Getting bigger. I mean, are they putting it through the roots?
The hybridus do seed. It's the other, like glandiferensis, the abragensis do not seed. They will continue to get larger. The clump will eventually get a foot wide. but never really any more than that.
So you can't divide the cuttings?
The question about dividing. You can divide hellebores. You need to do that when they are dormant. And hellebores are dormant in the summertime. Even though you can still see them above ground, that's when they're asleep. So I typically would go in late summer and early fall and do my divisions then. You don't want to divide them when they're in active growth. You will fail miserably. You lose everything you got and your originals. So you do not want to divide them now. Just to show you some of the color forms. This is where we've gone now. Yellows was difficult to get a pure yellow, but the breeders have really made great strides last few years, getting really good pure colors in the yellows. And then some yellows now have red spots and red blotches and really pretty amazing stuff. All right, here are some of those Abragensis hybrids I mentioned, and these will look great next week. They are, but you see the foliage. The foliage on these I would grow if they never even flowered. The Abragensis are just absolutely amazing foliage plants. And then we got a niger up here. Now here's another of the niger hybrids. This is one called Eric Smithii, and look at the number of flowers on each clump. These Eric Smithii are just absolutely amazing plants, and they too, anything with niger as well as lividus tends for us to do better in more sun. So this gets full sun for about 4 hours, and you see how fabulous it's doing. You're going to get many more blooms the more sun you give them, up to the point there. Now we found that the Abragensis hybrids will actually take full sun for 6 to 8 hours, and no problem there. So you can now grow hellebores in sun where you couldn't. Now originally in the wild, these actually grow, there's some that grow in forests, but most of them grow in open meadows. And they get a decent amount of light. Some where the trees have been cut, or over in Bosnia, Croatia, they've been bombed out, they're actually in full sun now. It's pretty amazing. Now here's a niger just coming up. This is a late niger. As I mentioned, this is called the Christmas rose because it typically is in bloom at or before Christmas. And all niger is the secret to breeding all of these amazing cool plants that have the flowers that stand out. And niger will actually produce seed. That one is fertile, but once you cross it with something else, it loses all fertility.
It still doesn't seed as much as the hybridus.
Oh, not even close. No, I wish it would seed more.
Yeah, me too.
Yes, absolutely. All right, let's walk a couple more. And see, here's a double violet. You can pass some of these around if you want there.
Oh, that's so pretty.
Yeah. Now, if you have a double near a single, what you will get is what's called an anemone. And that is where it has one set of petals and then it has a row that are sort of deformed in the middle that we call a collar. And let's see if I can find one of those right down here for you. So this is what you get when you cross a double with a single. You get this interesting little collar. And we call these anemone flowered. All right, I think I'm going to probably stop here. I think we've talked about as much hellebores as we can talk. Do you have anybody have any questions?
They're not pollinators, are they?
Pollinators?
They're not pollinators.
Oh, they're great. Yes, for bees. Bees, absolutely. Yeah, when the bees come out, especially honeybees, are incredible on hellebores.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't have any honeybees around my house.
You might be surprised your neighbors might have some. Yeah, when those come out, there is nothing else really for the honeybee. I mean, and they will just come right on your hellebores. If you're getting seed on them, something is pollinating them.
Okay, yeah.
Bumblebees like them too.
Are bumblebees out this early? I typically don't see them.
I have seen, I mean, maybe a little later, maybe not right now. But
Yeah, I hadn't
definitely
seen.
do pollinate. I have seen them on hellebore.
Okay, so you've seen them out that early. Okay. Yeah. We typically, honeybees is what we typically see. Any other questions?
Ours didn't die back. So you said
Yes.
that some stay around?
Great question. So yes, hellebores typically except for a few of the species that I talked about, do not die back. They're evergreen. What we do is we wait until the flowers get colored and up above the old foliage, and then we cut the old foliage back so they'll be more visible. Yes, 100%. Because we're looking, we grow the Hellebores for show. We don't want Hellebores to have this old ratty foliage from last year. It just makes them look not as nice. Now you don't want to go cut them early, because if you cut them early, what will happen is the ground actually warms too early. So the heat will actually cause them to come on flower early, and then you may have a really bad cold snap. And you don't want that. So we wait till those up above, and then they're not holding anything back at that point. Now Hellebores on cold nights, like we've had the last 3 nights, Hellebores will lose they'll open their stomata on the back of the leaf, and they'll collapse. So if you came out here this morning, all these Hellebores were laying flat on the ground. And then as soon as it warms up, they close the stomata, stand right back up.
Okay.
So we've had them flowers in the teens and no problem, down, right back up.
Mine were squished. I thought some of the deer or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, probably cold. Any other questions?
I have one. When is the best time that you mentioned to plant outdoors?
To plant is 12 months out of the year. As long as the ground isn't froze, you can plant.
Okay. And do they mix well with ferns?
They're fantastic with ferns. Oh my gosh, yes.
Okay.
Same conditions, yeah. You don't want to put Hellebores in dark shade. That's not good. They're not going to be happy there. But light shade, which means you can see the ground when the sun's out, you can see the rays of light, or half-day sun in the morning is perfect.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Awesome.
And you didn't say the best part.
What?
Deer don't eat them.
And deer do not eat them, yes. Well, if deers get hungry enough, they'll munch on anything, but they don't like them. They have chemicals in them that the deer would prefer not to have. Yeah, great point. Okay, any other questions?
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank y'all for coming today. Yeah.